Hello, this is Becca from Willow Hill Designs, and welcome. Today I will be sharing the finish, or just about finish, of the project for Roxy's Journal of Stitchery field notes, and it's probably 99% done, 99.9% done. And for my new subscribers, I just thought I would share that this is a box that I had made. It's a magnetic box that I had made for this project to live in, because it was to be an accordion folded project, and I thought lifting it out of the box, it might be a good place to have something like that to store it. So this is the box that I made, and I kind of was warring with myself over the accordion pleated thing. I didn't quite like that idea, just because, in thinking of pulling it out of the box, fabric doesn't really fold like paper so easily. And so when we pull out these 12 prompts and then, accordion pleating it back into place, that just didn't appeal to me, that idea. But I was kind of going along with that, and I had made, I had cut my strip for the project at 72 inches, and there's 12 prompts, so that each of the pages were 6 inches wide. So that worked out nicely. It was 2 yards of muslin that I cut the length from. And then I also made a cut just like that for the lining. And I thought, I don't really want to see the stitching on the backs of the pages, the prompt pages, so I thought it would be nice to have a lining that would, how does this go? I thought it would be nice to have something on the back of the pages so that you didn't really see the stitching. I don't want to see the stitching. I know some people like that. So I had these little bird panels that I thought I might use on the backs of the pages. So that was my idea, and I set about stitching those bird panels to the backs of the lining. And then, of course, my accordion folded project was done. So then I thought to myself, I really don't want to do that. I would rather have a book. So what I did was I just took 2 pages of the journal and 2 pages of the lining, and I just cut in between every 2 pages so that I got like a signature here. And I did that all the way down the length of this project. It worked out good because there's 12 prompts, and so that gave me 6 signatures of these double pages. So I thought, that's good. I can use that to make a book. And then I thought, I have the lining pages as well with the birds sewn on them, and I didn't want to waste those. So they kind of turned into a little bonus project. I didn't want to have the journal and then the birds, journal, birds. I thought that was too chaotic. I didn't want, I wanted it to be a little bit more uniform. So I made 2 little books, really. And first of all, in the inside cover of this box, I just put a pocket, a lace pocket of some vintage lace that I have that I love. And I took a I think this is Mary Cicely Barker Flower Fairies. And I just took, this is a postcard that you can buy. They have these on Amazon. And I just wrote on here, Roxy's Journal of Stitchery, Volume 6, Field Notes, so that down the road looking at this myself, or someone else looking at it, would know what this was. And then I just listed the prompts 1 through 12 so that I would refresh my memory just in case I forgot, or someone else would have an idea of what each page is, what the prompt was. So I thought that would be nice to just have that on here. And I'll slip that kind of gets stuck on the lace. So that's the inside cover there. And this, I decided, this is the book that I decided to make for all of the field notes prompts. And this is a little bonus with the birds, and I'll show that after. So the way I went about this was my cover was going to be stitched onto the lining, so that would fold over, and then the lining would fold onto the back of each of the pages. But since I cut them all apart, other than this one, they're by twos. So I just took one of these little bird panels to use as sort of a forward of a book, thinking of a book. It does go into the journal from there, but I kind of thought of this as a forward. And I chose this green fabric for the back, or the cover, kind of, the back of the cover of the book. And before I applied that to the book, I did a little collaging on the back just for some interest. And I used some vintage laces that I have that I love, just little pieces here and there of it. This is from a doily. This makes me think of one of the large night moths that I love. And this fabric has been used throughout. This has script on it, and I just love that. I thought that was pretty. And I added a few pieces of that. And this little bird from some fabric that I have. And this is a piece of fabric from Rachel. I had bought a packet of her fabric for a giveaway for my channel. And so this was a little piece that I had kept on one of the pieces. And so that green wraps around to the front of the book, but it doesn't go all the way across because, I mean, really, why waste the fabric? I knew it would be covered by the cover. And I love this cover. This makes me think of the vintage books that my husband and I always love to go out and search for and buy. Have loads of those vintage books. I have a whole bookcase just for them. So I just wanted this cover really to speak for itself here. So this green wraps around under here. And what I did was, after sewing this, doing the collage, I just wrapped this and pinned it in place. And what I did was I started sewing pages together, and I took 2 pages and stitched them together, and then 2 more pages and stitched them together, and so on. And oh, and I should show the very last page here quickly. This was Winter Flowers. I chose to do mistletoe because the only winter flowers I could think of here were poinsettias or snowdrops. And I wanted to use this little piece of fabric that I had experimented with early on in this project, and it's just a torn piece of muslin, and I took the edges, each of the 4 edges, and dipped them in a little bit of coffee, and it was a dry piece of muslin, and I just let the coffee leach up where it stopped. That just happened naturally. So I loved this. The center was clear, and this outer portion kind of had a frame. So that's why I chose to make the mistletoe kind of small to fit in this little frame here. And I just stitched this on with straight stitches and some satin stitches for the berries, long and short. This is an outline stitch in here. And what I decided to do to just give it a little bit more oomph was I used my Ranger Distress Oxide inks to tint this a little tiny bit. And you can use this. It doesn't seem to be affected by water when it's on fabric. Paper is different. So I just took my Distress Oxide and I used this old brush that I have for faux finishing, and it just has a square edge, a flat edge on it, and just tapped into the ink pad and just brushed this on to just kind of give a little shaded coloring. So that is Fired Brick, that one on here. And then I also used some of this Rustic Wilderness on here, and I put that around the edges of this little frame, along with some of the walnut. Let's see, here's walnut. I used some of that walnut around here. And I also lastly used a little bit of this antique linen. It's a very light color, and I just brushed that around here to just kind of blend the colors a little bit more so it wasn't so stark in the center. And this pink behind the berries is a Derwent watercolor pencil, just to kind of make the berries pop a little bit because they're white on the muslin. I needed a little more definition there. And I've used these Ranger inks, either Vintage Photo or Walnut, throughout the whole book. I've dabbed it along the edges of anything I've added to the pages or to the page edges, just because I wanted this to look like a vintage journal that maybe was found in a dusty attic somewhere. And I liked the effect that it gave. It just allowed you to have this vintage look. But using these inks was a nice way to add some color, some tinting to the pages. And just a little tip, when you're storing your inks, I store mine upside down because it allows the ink to stay on the surface more so of the pad. And then I just write on the back of it, Antique Linen or Rustic Wilderness, the different colors, Walnut, Vintage Photo, just so that when I am looking for it, I don't have to I don't have to pick up the whole thing and turn it over to see the color. I can just pick it up and read the color. Oh, let's see, which one do I want? So that is kind of a nice little thing to do to keep your ink pads moistened, but also and then you can read the names without having to turn everything over. So after I stitched all of these, I finally stitched the cover to the back page, to the very last prompt on this one. And the thread that I used to stitch all of these pages together is this Selkie. I didn't want to use a pearl cotton, an ivory pearl cotton, because I didn't really want the stitches to show on this green or so much on the front of the book. So I used this Selkie metallic thread, and this is really beautiful thread. It doesn't fray or split on you, and it's very strong, and it holds the pages together nicely. I don't know if you can see it on here, but there's just you can see the shimmer. It makes me think of gossamer, and I thought that goes nicely along with the theme of the book. So every page is stitched using that gold thread. Don't know if you can see it here, also along the side, and also down the spine. So once I stitched the cover to the back page, I began stitching each of the signatures to the spine. And so I don't know if you can see it, but there's the gold stitching that goes down. And I still left this little flap free in case I needed to pull more, or I needed to be able to regulate it a little bit. So each of the pages are stitched through the center, and here again you can see the gold stitching. So I only stitched 3 sides of the pages, and then down the center of the signature. So all of those are stitched. And then when I got to the front, and it's a little tiny bit crinkly here, but it seems to be okay. I can live with that. So when I got done with all of that, I just folded this little flap of fabric over and I glued that. I just put a few dabs of applique glue down for that. And then I placed the cover on top of that. And again, I stitched through. And there are some bits of lace also on the cover, just a few, 1, 2 in the corners. And stitched around with that gold. It goes right through to this, and that secured the cover to the book. And so I decided to use, I didn't want to just jump right into the journal, to the field notes journal from the cover. I thought it might be interesting to put a few birds in here. First, because I hated to waste them, and these are two of my favorites. These are the little nuthatches and cardinals, two of my favorite birds. So I thought that might be kind of like a foreword in a book, and it kind of conveys what is coming. This is about nature, and so then it goes into the actual prompts. And for those that are new here, I just stamped on a piece of muslin for each season. We had 3 prompts for each season, and I just stamped spring here, and then 3 prompts would follow. So this was the first one. This was spring bulbs, and then the next one was nest, and then the third one for spring was blooms in spring, and this is hawthorn. Our hawthorn trees always bloom in the spring. And then we began summer, and again there were 3 prompts for that. So this prompt is wildflowers, and then this one is insect or butterfly, and then the last one for summer was lazy days of summer. And I always think of the geese that frequent a pond that's nearby that we love to go and visit. And then we began autumn, and this first prompt was autumn colors, and the second prompt was mossy forest, and the third prompt for that was autumn birds. And I again picked 2 of my favorites, nuthatches and cardinals, although I love them all. And for winter, the 3 prompts, the first one was winter berries, and I chose a holly bush and put a little bird up here on the holly bush, and I chose a juniper branch with juniper berries and another little bird and a little nuthatch here. And I made notes throughout the journal of each thing that is on each page. You can see that in the other videos in this little series. And then we had winter visitors, and I chose a hare and a little red squirrel. I just think they're adorable, and I couldn't resist putting a little scarf on one and a bow on the other. I was feeling festive for Christmas. And lastly, our winter flowers, and I chose the mistletoe. So that makes my book complete. The only thing that is not quite finished on this is that I have been buttonhole stitching along the edges of the pages. I've been just running a buttonhole stitch because when I cut these signatures apart, my design went right out just about to the edge of the page, and there really wasn't any room to turn it under to have a finished edge there so that they wouldn't fray all over the place. So I'm just doing a buttonhole stitch on these pages, and let's see, I think I'm up to here on the autumn, so I just have these last few pages to buttonhole stitch, and I'm really only buttonhole stitching down this side that you grab and turn. These edges don't seem to be fraying as much as they are. So let's see, this would be the lengthwise grain. So the crosswise grain doesn't seem to, this frays more, the lengthwise not as much. And I left this selvage on these pages, that little frayed edge on the selvage. I love that look. So that's really all I have to do is finish stitching the buttonhole stitch on those pages. But this is my book, and it's entirely fabric. There's no book covers or anything in here, and I love that. I love that it's just a fabric book. And again, I didn't put the other birds in between because I didn't want it to get too thick. And I thought it might be disruptive to have birds prompt, birds prompt, birds prompt. So I just put them in the beginning as a little forward. And so this was my little bonus here. Let's see, I'm stitching on this as well. This is my little bonus book, and I chose this piece of fabric because I thought it looked like a forest to me. I just love that look. I don't know, it looks like a forest where you might find all these things. So I just put a piece of vintage lace again, and this is a snippet from Chrissy's Attic. She's on Etsy. She's also on YouTube, Chrissy Crosser, and I love her snippets. I think they're beautiful. And this one says Precious, and all of these little animals and plants and flowers are, to me, precious. They're beautiful. I love nature. Again, some more of that vintage lace, and two more of Chrissy's snippets. This one says Nature Finds. This one I love. It says A Little Bird Told Me. And I thought that was very appropriate for the birds that are in here. And again, I used that gold thread, the sulky thread, and just stitched 3 edges around the cover. I just wrapped this around like you would around the signatures, like a book cover. And then I went through and I stitched the pages together. Again, these pages, I cheated. These are stitched on machine, but I did sew them by hand to the spine. And so I chose the little, I'm not sure what that bird is. I'm not positive about that one. If it's a finch of some, it might be a house finch or a purple finch, a red pole, I'm not sure. Cedar waxwing and some bluebirds. And I don't know if these are tanagers. I'm not positive about that. I don't think that's a goldfinch. I think this is the goldfinch here. A robin, American robin, and blue jays. And I think this is a goldfinch on the nest. And of course some chickadees. I love chickadees. And what I did for these was that same fabric that I used for the cover of this book, the Field Notes Journal. I tore some strips from that fabric, and they're about maybe 3/4 of an inch or an inch wide. I tore some strips to put around these birds, and I just tore and cut, and then, so there's 4 pieces on here. It's not one continuous piece. There's 4 pieces for each little frame on these little birds. And the way that I stitched them on was to just do a running stitch around the outside edge. I don't seem to be able to stitch in a straight line. And then I did a running stitch on the inside edge of the little frame with these strips. And I used different colors. I used a light pink and a light green for this one. And the light pink again, the light green, light pink, and light green. And then this one has a dark pink and a dark green. And these 2 in here also, this was a dark pink here, and a dark green on this one. And so that way I felt as though I didn't waste these little panels that I had stitched to the back, which was going to originally be the lining. And as you can see, I was very tired from Christmas, and some are down lower and some are higher. So I decided I would add some pieces of fabric up here just for a little bit of interest to maybe draw your eye away from my crooked stitching here. Oh goodness. I guess I should stamp on here tired. Christmas tired. And so I just put some little pieces of fabric for interest up here. And again, this is an entirely fabric little book. So this was a little bonus that goes, and they will both go in my box here. I'll store them in my box. And so rather than pulling out this accordion and then trying to fold it all back, because fabric doesn't want to behave that way, I thought it's just easier to look through it this way as a book. So it is finished and I love it. I just love it. I thank Sarah and Rachel for the inspiration that they give us, and I'm looking forward to the new one, the still life, which I don't know. I think I have an idea of how I'll approach that. I may not make it a wall hanging. I don't have lots of wall space left in my sewing studio, and I don't know that that would go anywhere else in my house, but I may make it the center of a quilt. That could be. But I'd just like to take this chance to wish everyone a happy and healthy 2025 new year ahead. And thank you all for those that have subscribed to my channel. I don't ever really ask anyone to subscribe or to like or to comment. I just feel that if that's something that you would like to do, you'll do it. I'm probably a rebel that way. I just can't follow. I can't follow those orders. You have to say subscribe, like, share. I can't do that. So thank you for those that do, and thank you for all the kind comments that you have left me. They truly inspire me to share, and I'm inspired by others, and what they share gives me inspiration and just enjoyment watching those videos. So thank you very much, and again, wishing you a very happy new year, and also wishing you many blessings, and see you in the next video. Bye for now.